Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, I of course am the FPL Train, and today's video we're going to be doing a wildcard team ahead of game week 8. Now we've currently got the international break going on, so we've got a snooze fest of a weekend coming up. So if you are thinking about wildcarding, here's a few tips that I would do when I wildcard. So the first thing I do when I wildcard is I pick Erling Haaland. Like you guys should do, I definitely think he is essential. The guy's got 10 goals this season, so the first thing you do, if you haven't got him, you get him in, and if you have got him, you keep him in. So that's hard on your team. So the next thing is we're going to look at which teams have the best fixtures. Now, the team with the best fixtures is Man City, in my opinion. That is why I've tripled up on Man City players in this wildcard team. So I've got Guardiola and I've got Phil Foden. I've got for Guardiola as my defensive option because I think he's the best attacking defender they've got. You could argue Rico Lewis, but he's got a better chance of being rotated more than Guardiola, although they do both get rotated. It's just an annoying thing with Pep, but it's always a gamble when you go for Man City players. But if it was me, I'd go for Guardiola because he's my preferred option. And the midfield one, I've gone for Phil Foden, somebody who I've been banging on about getting in your team now for the last couple of weeks. He finally started in the last game week for Man City, played about 77 minutes. He didn't get any goals or assists, but the fact that he started, I think, is a massive plus. Obviously, providing he stays fit in international football is going to be another thing. Hopefully that is the case, because if he does, he's got great fixtures. Obviously, he's gone down in price as well. He's 9.5, he is now 9.2. And I think if you get on him early, you're going to be laughing, put it that way. So that is why I think you should triple up on Man City players. So another team for the next 3 game weeks anyway, we've got good fixtures, is of course Ipswich Town. So that is why I've doubled up on Ipswich players here. So I've gone for Davis as the defensive option at 4.5 million. He's looked really good this season, in all fairness to him. Got the 1 assist so far. Ipswich as a whole, to be fair, have been pretty decent. They've been a bit unfortunate. They've not obviously won a game yet this season. And of course, that battering they got from West Ham was a bit of a shocker, but I do think they will bounce back, especially the next 3 fixtures being against the likes of Everton, Brentford and Leicester City. Now Brentford of course is going to be a bit more difficult, but to have Everton and Leicester 2 of your next 3 fixtures I think is pretty ace, to be fair. And having of course Liam Delap, this guy has been decent to say the least. He's got 4 goals this season, which is amazing, to be fair, for a team that's obviously coming up into the Premier League for the first time, God knows how many years. But of course it's his first time in the Premier League for Ipswich, and he's got off to a great start. He's literally just 5.6 million as well. He's an absolute bargain of a player to get, and I do think he can get at least a couple of goals in the next 3 game weeks. He's already got 3 goals in the last 2 game weeks. I'm sure he'll be able to build up on those goals. So my next double up of players I've got is Manchester United, believe it or not, and that is of course Dalot and Marcus Rashford. This is of course a massive gamble, but I hate to say, but their next few fixtures, they're actually pretty decent. I'd say the next 6 game weeks, I think they could do pretty decent if they finally turn around, or if they even sack the manager, they could obviously get that bounce. So that is why I've gone for Dalot and Marcus Rashford. Dalot is the reason why I've gone for him out of the other Man United defenders, because he starts week in, week out. He plays 90 minutes. Yes, he's had a few terrible games, to be fair to him. I would have dropped him, in my opinion, but United don't have a left back right now, so they can't really. So Dalot is a shoe-in for me. Mazraoui, I think he's been poor the last few weeks. I think he's been found out already, from being honest. And the centre-halves, man, I ain't got a clue what's going on there, but they keep getting rotated like there's no tomorrow, which is just stupid, because everybody knows you need a solid back line if you want to go forward. No wonder they keep conceding goals left, right and centre. And of course, I've gone for Marcus Rashford as my midfielder, which could be, a shock for some people. I could obviously gone for Bruno Fernandes in this team, but I've gone for Marcus Rashford. Now, he's only scored 1 Premier League goal this season, which of course sounds pretty crap, to be fair, but he has been scoring in cup games, so he's actually done better than he looks when it looks on paper. It's just, I don't know what's going on with that club right now. He scores goals and then he gets dropped. It's a bit confusing, but I think he can turn around. He's looked better than he has done last season. He's done a few wobbly things, but he's looked better this season than he did last. So that is something to take into consideration. But yeah, so I've gone for a double up on Man United players. They've got Brentford at home next game. Now, Brentford, I think, are a better team than them. And I'd probably say West Ham are as well in game week 9. But the fact that Man United are playing so crap right now, they've got to they've got to retaliate. They've got to go like, nah, this can't continue. They've got to win games. So that is why I've gone for United players. If they were having an alright season, to be fair, you know, a bit like where Chelsea probably are right now, I probably wouldn't go for them. But the fact that they're playing so bad, they have to react. They've got to score goals. I mean, they've scored like 5 goals this season. Pretty embarrassing, to be fair. But yeah, it might not work out, but it's a gamble, in my opinion, that I think is just worth taking. And that leads me on to then my final double of this team. So that is, of course, Eze and Nketiah of Crystal Palace. Another team that has got off to an absolute disastrous start. Not won a game yet this season, Crystal Palace. Drawn 3, lost 4. Not a lot of people were expecting this, particularly Crystal Palace fans at the start of the season. They all reckon they're going to be pushing for Europe, but it turns out that doesn't look like it's going to be the case at all this season. It looks like they could be battling relegation unless they turn things around sooner rather than later. Next 4 fixtures for Crystal Palace, they're pretty nice, to be fair to them. They've got the likes of Forest, Spurs, Wolves and Fulham. Now obviously Spurs isn't exactly an easy game, but you'll notice that I didn't pick a Crystal Palace defensive option because I do think at the back they've been pretty poor in all fairness. So I've gone for Eze as my midfield option because I think he's by far Crystal Palace's best player without a shadow of a doubt. Now, he has been really disappointed in terms of his returns this season. He's only got 1 goal this season and no assists, which is really surprising and quite shocking, to be fair. He did get, obviously, that 10 points against Crystal Palace, which is, of course, when he scored that goal. But apart from that, he's not delivered anything, which has been a bit surprising. We all expected more. And I do think we're going to get more. I think after, obviously, the international break, I think he will wake up and he will do really well in the next few game weeks, which is why I've gone for him. And my attacker is Nketiah, not Mateta. I really liked Mateta at the end of last season. I had him for a few game weeks. He absolutely smashed it. And I thought he was going to continue that this season. But I don't know what's going on with Crystal Palace's manager and his options. So, I mean, Mateta only played a half hour in the last game. So it's not, for me, you can't go for him because you can't guarantee a start. I thought when Edouard left to Leicester on loan, I thought that's it. He's nailed. But Crystal Palace have brought in Eddie Nketiah. And this guy, he started every game since he's obviously joined Crystal Palace, the last 4 game weeks. 2 of those he's played 90 minutes. 2 of those he's come off a little bit earlier. But yeah, the fact that he's starting, I think it's something to look at. He hasn't scored yet or got an assist. But I do think that will end sooner rather than later. Like I said, these next 4 fixtures are in Crystal Palace's favour, which is why I think it's worth going for a gamble. He's only 1% owned, Nketiah. So he's barely owned right now, so he's very much a differential, and he could work out an absolute treat if you go for Eddie Nketiah. So 6 positions left to fill. It's now time to fill in the goalkeepers, and they are, of course, Johnson and Lumley of Southampton. I've gone for Sam Johnson as my starting goalkeeper, 4.4 million, absolute bargain. Got an absolutely disgusting fixture in game week 8, though. He's going up against Manchester City, so the highly likely of him getting a 1-pointer is more than likely going to happen, but after that, Wolves are going on to a mega good run. Now, you're probably thinking, why haven't I doubled up on Wolverhampton players? The reason is, I mean, the only other player I'd recommend for Wolves is Cunha as a striker. But for me, in this team, I've gone for Delap and Nketiah ahead of him. Everybody else, I just don't see. I don't think it's worth going for. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Wolves right now. He-Chan was amazing last season. Sarabia was unbelievable last season. Yet, Gary O'Neill, as much as he keeps blaming the fact that he's lost his best players, those 2 were 2 of his best players last season, and he's just not playing them. So it's his own fault, in my opinion. So that is why I've only gone for Johnson. Like I said, Cunha is worth a worthy option, but I've gone for Sam Johnson. He's going to have a lot of shots at him, but I do think he can get a couple of clean sheets within these next 10 fixtures that he's got coming up, because that's how good of a run they've got, Wolves, in the next 10 game weeks. So yeah, for me, I think it's an absolute shoo-in to go for this goalkeeper. And I also got Joe Lumley of Southampton. He ain't going to play. He's just 4 million. And we still don't have a 3.9 million goalkeeper. So with 4 players left to pick then, of course, I'm going to pick the midfielders ahead of defenders here. Because this is what we do when we're picking our teams. We pick midfielders before we pick defenders. They're usually your last options with your goalkeeper. And as you can see, I've gone for Bowen of West Ham United. You might go, well, this is knee-jerk reaction because he got the 12-pointer against Ipswich, getting that goal and assist. But if anybody watches my videos, they'll know the last couple of game weeks I've been banging on about getting Bowen in your team. He's got decent fixtures coming up, and I do think he's going to do well. He's already had a pretty decent start to the season, although West Ham have been crap themselves. But the guy's got 2 goals, and he's got 3 assists this season. You could argue, well, take his Ipswich returns away. That's 1 goal and 2 assists. But still, I think he's had a pretty decent start considering West Ham have been that bad. You know, they've played the likes of Villa, Man City and Chelsea this season already. So if you take those 3 fixtures away and take that goal and assist away from obviously Ipswich, so it works out. He's had a pretty decent start to the season, in all fairness to him. He's only 5.5% owned as well, which is an absolute steal. 36 points so far this season. His fixtures coming up, he's got Spurs, they don't like to defend. Man United don't like to do anything. And then he's got the likes of Forest and Everton coming up. And yes, he does have a couple of tricky fixtures in 12 and 13. But then after that, he goes on to a great 5-game run. So for me, I think he's on... Is he on penalties? I'm not sure, actually. But he's... No, I don't think he is. But yeah, he's one of their key players at West Ham. And yeah, I think he's worth putting into your team. So let's go on to the final midfielder. And that's the man in form. And that is, of course, Brennan Johnson of Spurs. Now, there's a few options I could have gone for instead. Cole Palmer, for example. But honestly, the next 4 fixtures for Chelsea are absolutely disgusting. And I don't fancy that at all. I could have gone for maybe Mo Salah. The next 2 fixtures for him, again, are not great. In fact, the next 4 fixtures, you could argue that because of the way, you know, Brighton got battered, you could argue they actually are a decent team to play against. But no Mohamed Salah in this team, no Cole Palmer, and no Saka as well, which might be a surprise. Reason why is because they got Bournemouth in game week 8, which is nice, but 9, 10, 11 is Liverpool, Newcastle, and Chelsea, which is not good at all. So there's no Arsenal midfield in here either. Obviously, you could change a few things around because obviously we've got the likes of Foden in here. But for me, I've gone for Brennan Johnson in this team. But that does leave me with 2 positions left and I've got 13.2 million. So you could easily get, obviously, some of the higher value midfielders in your team. But for me, for now, I've gone for Brennan Johnson. The guy's just scored 3 goals in the last 3 game weeks. He's got an assist as well. He's got overall 3 goals, 2 assists this season. After, you know, having that shocking performance, literally feels like a few weeks ago, the guy is in red hot form. And for me, he's definitely worth looking at. Fixtures are not amazing for Spurs. I mean, West Ham, they could do well, but that's a derby, so that could go either way. Crystal Palace needs to win. Aston Villa is going to be tricky. Ipswich should look decent in this season, although they've not won yet. Man City, I don't see any chance there. Then the likes of Fulham, Bournemouth. But yeah, it's hot and cold their fixtures. But the fact that he's in form, it's just, in my opinion, he's just worth going for. So that leads on to the final 2 defenders there. And first up, I've gone for William Saliba of Arsenal. So I've had no Arsenal players up to this point. The reason why I've gone for him is just because I want to cover my own back if I was to, you know, do this team. If you're wildcarding, I think you should cover your own back anyway. So the last 2 performances for Arsenal, in particularly in defence, has been quite shocking in all fairness. They haven't kept a clean sheet. They conceded against Southampton, which was surprising. They conceded 2 against Leicester City, which was really disappointing. Obviously, they conceded 2 against Man City, which is expected. So the last time they actually had a clean sheet was against Spurs in that 1-0 victory. They didn't keep one against Brighton, and they did obviously against the likes of Villa and obviously Wolves. So at the start of the season, the first 2 game weeks looked pretty good. 3 clean sheets in 4 games was really good. But the last 3 game weeks, they haven't kept a clean sheet, which has been quite disappointing in all fairness, because a lot of us have got, obviously, Arsenal defenders. And obviously, the next 4 fixtures, the next one's fine in game week 8, but the 3 after that, Liverpool, Newcastle and Chelsea, I don't see them doing too well. But like I said, it's always good to cover your back because, you know, the best teams get clean sheets against the best teams. That's how, if Arsenal want to win the Premier League, they've got to be keeping clean sheets against Liverpool, Newcastle and Chelsea. If they can't, they're not going to win the league. So it's worth a gamble in my opinion. So that is why I've gone for William Saliba at the back. So with all that left me with 1 position left to fill. And I had 7.2 million left in the bank, which meant I could afford any defender that I wanted. And I thought, you know what, stuff it. Why not go for the most expensive one? And that is, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold. My first Liverpool player as well in this team. Again, it's very similar to like Saliba. It's a case of covering your own back, I would say. So they've got absolutely diabolical next 4 fixtures. You could say 6 out of the next, well, 5 of the next 6 or 7 of the next 6. Is that bad? So they've got Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Aston Villa. That's horrible. Southampton's a nice one. Then it's Man City and Newcastle after that. That is horrible. That is not good at all. Will they keep clean sheets? We're yet to see. But I mean, a lot of us have been saying this season, well, for a while, Arsenal have the best defence. The reality is, Liverpool kept, what is it, They got 3 clean sheets in the first 3 games. 1 against Bournemouth and 1 against Crystal Palace. So they've got 5 clean sheets in 7 game weeks. They've only conceded against Nottingham Forest and Wolves this season. They've got off to an absolutely cracking start defensively. They've done alright tackling, but defensively they've been pretty awesome. Yes, Trent Alexander-Arnold has only got 1 assist this season. No goals. Nothing really been great about him. Got a few bonus points this season. 6 in total. But apart from that, he's been a bit meh. But if Liverpool aren't going to be keeping clean sheets, they've got to go for attacking options. And, you know, you never know what could happen with Trent. So for me, anything could happen with him. He could come back with a 1-pointer. He could come back with a 10-pointer. And they didn't even keep a clean sheet. That's how good he is, obviously. So for me, why not cover your own back and go, you know what, I've got the money. I'm going to bring Trent in. So you got still 0.1 in the bank. And obviously you could change things around still. Go for a cheaper option if you want. But for me, I will go for Trent Alexander-Arnold. So yeah, that is the team that I would do if I was wildcarding ahead of Game Week 8. Unfortunately, I'm not, which is a shame because I don't like my team. But yeah, that is the team I would do. Let me know what you think of this team. Let me know what team you would do or what players you take out and bring in instead of those. Obviously, the big, notable omissions are Salah, Saka and Palmer. 3 unbelievable players. But let me know what you think of this team. And let me know what you're doing ahead of Game Week 8. And before you leave as well, please do not forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one.